Hey everyone, it's Ollie, welcome to the next tutorial, and I'm so sorry this took so long. It's because I had filmed it, and then it got corrupted, and I'd already filmed the next two after that, so everything got confusing, and now I need to redo this. So I followed along my sixth tutorial to get this source code, because I hadn't copied it and pasted it anywhere, and all that's changed is this key class is a separate class, but I made it an inner class because that seemed more logical. So that's the only thing that's changed, really. What we'll do in this tutorial is fix that double buffering thing and also implement mouse listening to the program. That was from the next tutorial, which you guys will see. So the first thing we want to do is to fix the double buffering thing. If we go to state and then open the state thing up, the only thing you have to do is this. Wait, here we go. In the get graphics, I renamed it get graphics 2D, and all you have to do is each time you need to update the screen or whatever, we call get to graphics 2D, and then we say the screen, which was the buffered image, and we just simply reset it to a new image, and then we get the graphics from it, and that's basically double buffers it. So in the input manager class, if we want to, if we want to implement mouse listening, the first thing we'll do is also implement mouse listener and also mouse motion listener, because we'll be looking for movement events and clicking events, so that's a lot of methods. Let's cut all of these and then we'll bring them down below the key methods. And then delete all of these things by highlighting it, and then you can press Ctrl H and then just do replace all. And once we've done that, we want to make something similar to what we did with the... Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So what we want to do is for the clicked, pressed, and released, we want to make something similar to what we did with this key class. So below the key class, we can say public class... actually, I'm going to make them both protected, because we don't actually want to make protected. We don't need to make a new instance of these outside of this class, and so yeah, make them protected. And once we've done that, what we can do is, sorry, just adjusting my charger. What we can do is we can make a class called click. This is going to be similar to what the key class did, except it's going to hold kind of key mouse presses instead of key presses. So again, we're going to need public string name. We'll need public int called like mouse code, and then click count, and then public boolean pressed, and that's for if the mouse is being pressed, and we also need one for it being clicked. So what we want to do is we want to make a constructor for this, public click, and very similar to the key class, string name int click code, this dot click code. Oh no, we called it mouse code. Let's call that mouse code as well. Equals mouse code. This dot name equals name. Pressed equals false. Clicked equals false. There we go. And then we need a toggle public void toggle toggle pressed, and then takes boolean called toggle, and then and we're going to do basically exactly the same as the key class above. So pressed is not equal to toggle, pressed equals toggle, and then if pressed, click count. Oh no, actually the click count is for the clicks, not the pressed, because the pressed, because when it's pressed in, it will sort of constantly update. So actually we'll make one called if pressed, and then we can say click count and also press count. So we can say press count plus plus. There we go. And what we also need is a click method for this click class. So the click thing is a little more complicated, because what will happen is when this toggle press method is going to be called in the mouse pressed method, and as long as the mouse button is held in, this up here, this pressed variable will always be true. So the pressed variable will be true as long as the mouse is clicked in, and that's not good for things like if you want to click on a button in a menu to exit it or enter it or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to invoke a clicked method, and the mouse clicked method is called when the mouse is pressed and released. So once the mouse is released, this released method is called, but the mouse clicked method is also called. So what we want to do is we want to make a method called something like it is clicked, and what we'll do in that method is we'll say if the mouse, once the mouse has been released, then we want to, once the mouse has been clicked, we want to call this method here, which we'll do right now. Actually, we're going to say public void toggle clicked and boolean toggle. And then if clicked is not equal to toggle, then we say clicked equals toggle, and then we spell toggle right, and then we can say if clicked click count plus plus. And then what we want is a method called, or we'll do it inside here in a second, because what we're going to do is in the mouse pressed method we're going to say we want to do something similar to this add mapping here. So I'm going to rename this method to add key mapping, and then below it I'm going to say public void add mouse mapping, and then string s int mouse code, and then here we need a public array list of what did we call it? Clicks? Yeah, click. Public array list of clicks. We'll call it clicks equals new array list of the click class. So once we've got that, we can say clicks.add new click, and then we do exactly the same as the key thing up there, key method, or key this one here, whatever you want to call that. So what that does is we add a new instance of the click class, which is going to have all its own of these variables, and it's going to toggle them when we press whatever button we tell it to. That was badly explained, so I will show you how to do it. If we can just copy this. Or actually we won't, because I want to explain it better. So in mouse pressed, every time the user will add a mapping, say they'll call this method add mouse mapping, and they'll add it to say the left click, and they'll call it left click. So if we come to our mouse press now, we can say for and int I equals 0, I is less than clicks.size I++, and then we can say if the e.get get button, yeah, that's the one, get button, if that is equal to the clicks.get I, the one that the loop is currently on, dot mouse code. So if a button on the mouse is pressed, which is equal to a mouse mapping that someone has created, we want to get the one that we're currently on, which is the one with the correct mouse mapping, and we want to say toggle pressed to true, and then we can copy this to mouse released, and we can toggle pressed to false, and then in mouse clicked we can paste that, and we can set toggle clicked to true. And then what we can do is, if we come up here, just under is pressed, we can say public boolean is clicked, so is the mouse clicked. I'm going to rename this is key pressed and is mouse pressed. And again, it takes a string variable, which is the name of the mapping that we made. And then we can make another for loop. I'll just paste what we have there. We can delete that. And we could say if s dot equals clicks dot get I dot name, and then I think, yeah, that's fine. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that once we've toggled click to true, we want to return true on this, but then also set clicked back to false, because we don't want it to constantly think it's being clicked. So we can say, let's see here. So if the string is equal to the name, we can say clicks.get I dot clicked equals false, but then also return true, because the mouse was clicked, which is why it entered this. And actually, no, what we want to do is, so if the name is equal and also the clicks dot get the one at I dot the clicked variable is true, then we want to set clicked back to false, but return true because it was clicked, and then just outside of all of this we can return false. And we can also, we're actually going to make a nested if statement here. If we delete that and sign and control X this, we want to say if it was clicked, then we can, if it was clicked, we can set it to false and return true, but if it wasn't clicked, we actually still want it to return false. So we can say else return false. So again, what we're doing is we're looping through all the clicks that we've mapped to our input manager. If the string that we enter at the time is equal to any of the mappings we've made, we then enter another if statement which checks whether it's actually clicked or not. And I think I'll name this clicked, is mouse clicked. So if it is clicked, we're going to set it back to false because it's not clicked anymore, and we haven't anywhere else set it to false. So we then return true because it was clicked, but if it wasn't, then we will just return false, and then outside everything, if it couldn't find the mapping that we said, we'll just return false anyway. So I think that's pretty much all done for that. We also have entered, oh yeah, we've got the moved methods. So what we're going to do for this with all the moved methods is in our, let's see here, we're actually going to make another inner class called mouse, so public class mouse, and what we're going to do with this class is it's simply going to hold x and y variables, and it should be a protected class. It's just going to hold x and y variables and a boolean value for whether it's in the screen or not. And let me just check if there's any other methods we need for it. Entered, exited, also dragged if it's being dragged or not. So we're going to need public int x and y for where it is on the screen, public boolean dragged for if the mouse is being dragged, and what was the other one? It will put in the screen for if it's in the actual screen itself. So public mouse, do we need a constructor? I don't think we do. We can just make it private. So Once that's done, we can say public void toggle dragged, I guess, is a good method. Or no, we don't need to do that, actually. All we need to actually do is make a... Let's think here. Alright, so if below these array lists we make a public instance of the mouse class, just call it mouse in capitals, we can then go down here, or actually first make it equal to a new mouse. Or no, because you can't instantiate it, because I made that. I'll make this public. Oh no, wait, you can, because it's within the same thing. My mistake. So once we've got the mouse class, we can come down to, let's see here, entered. So we don't need a mouse event for this. We can just say mouse.inScreen equals true. And we also need to set this mouse, oh no, we already did, to public. For when it's exited, we're going to set mouse.inScreen equals false. And then when it's dragged, we want to set mouse.dragged equal to true, but we also want to update the x and y variables. So mouse.x equals e.getx. Mouse.y equals e.getY. And then we can copy this into the moved method, except set dragged to false. So that is basically all the mouse events done. One final thing, in the constructor here, we want to say c.add mouse listener, this, and c.add mouse motion listener, this. And once we've done that, I think that's pretty much done. So I'm going to quickly set up a test for this. There's one more thing before I show you the test, guys. In the mouse class, we actually need a method public int getX, and we can return the x variable. And then we can say public int getY, and return the y variable. Return y. Alright, and then we can test our test. And also mouse needs to be public because we actually need to access the variables inside it. Oh, and yeah, alright, so my mistake. We can delete the getX and getY, and we can just say, make it public mouse. No. Sorry to keep adding stuff, but we also need to do a method for isMousePressed. So isMouseClicked, we can also have isMousePressed, and we also need a string for that, and we just need to change the clicked boolean to pressed, and we don't need to set it to false because we already toggle it off true and false. All we have to do is write return clicks.getI.pressed. There we go. And hopefully no more stuff to add. I'm still setting up the test gut thing for you. Alright guys, I've set up this little test program for the input manager. It's a little bit glitchy. Basically what I've done is I've added a mapping of a left click and a right click, and also left, right, up, down on the arrow keys. Basically I'm just drawing a rectangle at coordinates xy with variables width and height, which is set up here. I'm making graphics 2D object called G, equal to getGraphics2D. I have a color variable because I set it depending on things I press, and I also have a random variable. And if I come down here, you'll see that I think I showed you this thing in the last tutorial. If left is pressed, minus the x, right pressed plus the x, and so on. That basically moves it about. If the mouse is dragged, then I set the color to blue. Otherwise, I set the color to red. If the mouse is not in the screen, then I reset the coordinates of x and y to 15. If the mouse is if the mouse is pressed in the left click, it will increase the width and height. If it's pressed in, it will in the right click, it will decrease the width and height. If it's clicked in with the left click, it's gonna randomize the location, and if it's clicked with the right click, it's gonna reset the location to 50. So if I play this now, you can see that I can move it around with the arrow keys. If I left click, you'll see that it gets a bit bigger and it also randomizes the location. If I right click, you'll see that it gets smaller and it resets the location. If I drag the mouse around, you'll see that it turns blue. And if I drag it with the right thing, it also turns blue. And if I move it off the screen, you'll see that it resets its location. So hopefully that all made sense to you guys, and hopefully this tutorial wasn't too long, 20 minutes. I hope that's alright. Message if long tutorials are annoying, because I would prefer to do short ones if you guys want me to do that. But anyways, thanks for watching this. Sorry it took so long to make this. The next tutorial, we're going to be doing sound in the next tutorial, and the tutorial after that, we're going to be kind of cleaning up some of the glitches that occur with this mini engine thing that we've built. Also, not the next tutorial, but the tutorial after, there'll be a RAR file of all of this source code over here that I've made. So try not to comment asking for the source code, because I probably won't have it, because it's all confused at the moment. But once it's finished, once this engine is finished, you guys will be the first to know. So thanks for watching again, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.